Today, I have an interesting video for each and every one of you. I have some hot takes, maybe not, but this is a video that I really want to bring my thought process and players that I'm going to be selling high at the right time. And I'm going to be emphasizing that throughout the whole video. These aren't anti-takes for some of these, for all of these players. These are players that I'm willing to sell high at the right time, maybe when they hit their peak value. Maybe some of these players have hit their peak value already, or maybe trying to pivot for a risk aversion type of scenario. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below which player you are trying to sell high at the right time when you believe it is the right time. And as always, make sure you go to flockfantasy.com/land. That is the best place to come and support what we're doing here at Fantasyland. But at the same time, not only you can do that, you can support everyone else that's on the website, right? Myself and Zach and all the other content creators. You get our rankings, our bonus content, so many things. And not only that, you can post your own articles, your own rankings in the community tab, which is really exciting. So make sure you go to, once again, flockfantasy.com/land. You get 30% off at sign up. And let's get straight into the video. Okay, before I get into my first player, I just want to say this is not anti any of these players. This isn't. I do like all of these players. I really believe they can have a good breakout season potentially, or a good step into this year. But there's a certain time where throughout the season, or even before the season starts, to sell everyone high at the right time. And I think some of these players are either going to get to that point, or even some of these players may be at that point right now. So my first player is Tony Pollard. Yes, Tony Pollard. Everyone's loving him right now. He finished RB8 this past year. You know, took over Zeke. Was great on the ground, great in the air. One of the most efficient running backs in the NFL this past year, averaging 15.6 fantasy points per game in this past 2022 season. And once again, not an anti-Tony Pollard take. I do have a decent amount of Tony Pollard in my Dynasty leagues, but right now he is currently running back 10. He's a guy that's on a franchise tag that has been a backup to Ezekiel Elliott, who has been this franchise running back for the past couple years. Obviously Zeke is no longer on this team, but the reason why I'm really interested in selling high right now, or maybe even when it gets closer to the season, or maybe in season, is because I'm just really wanting to cash in and get these values in some of these guys that haven't had a contract extension, right? We all know Tony Pollard was franchise tagged, but do we really see a pathway where Tony Pollard gets a 2-3 year contract without, you know, Jerry making a splash in the running back room? Obviously they couldn't get their, you know, the Dalton Kincaid, or maybe a wide receiver, or maybe Bijan Robinson, so they kind of settled and went a different route. But if one of those players in the 2024 class obviously falls to Jerry and the Dallas Cowboys, no matter where they land, whether that's a running back or a wide receiver, how is that really going to be affecting Tony Pollard? And every single year, there's always a regression candidate. And I think that could be Tony Pollard this year. Tony Pollard and a couple other names. Obviously, these are all hypotheticals, but this could just be a blabbermouth video as well. But I really want to give you my thought process and where I am feeling and understanding right now in this fantasy community, where everyone is valuing Tony Pollard. Once again, love Tony Pollard and what he has done and what he is going to be doing. But I'm not too confident or certain that Jerry Jones is going to want to extend Tony Pollard, who is currently 26, to a 2-year or even a 3-year contract, and say, you know what, let's ride with him without bringing in more help. And that more help can be anyone, whether it's free agency in the 2024, the 2023 season ends in 2024, or drafting a running back maybe that is significantly better than Tony Pollard, maybe that has a better build, has an overall better profile than Tony Pollard. Look, we had to remember the draft capital, and this is kind of the conversation we were having all off season. Like, okay, Zeke's no longer on this team, but Tony Pollard was a 4th round draft pick. That cycle is going to happen again once the season ends in this 2023 season, and then okay, is Tony Pollard going to get re-signed, or are they going to draft somebody? Are they going to get somebody in free agency? I think all those things are a high possibility over Tony Pollard getting a contract extension. So look, once again, I'm not anti Tony Pollard. I love Tony Pollard right now. And, you know, coming into this season, I definitely believe he can finish as a top 10, top 15 running back. But if I can cash in on that with, I believe, the regression that's potentially going to be happening either at this year or next year, I'm willing to cash that in, right? Okay, so at the moment right now, according to Keep Trade Cut, and mind you, Keep Trade Cut is just a source. It's not. I'm not saying you can do this, but in every single league, it's different. You know, this is a starting point, not a finish line. At the current moment, obviously, you can sell Tony Pollard for a 2023 first round pick. That can be anywhere from the 108 and onwards. And the 108, that's Zay Flowers. I would rather have Zay Flowers. I think at this very moment, I would rather have a Dalton Kincaid. You know, sometimes in those leagues, Quentin Johnston can fall to the 108. I would 100% do that for Tony Pollard, or sell Tony Pollard for all of those players. Not only that, also Jordan Addison as well, depending on your leagues, right? But other players that I will be very interested in for Tony Pollard, once again, in a package, whatever type of deal you would actually like. What about a Tua Tagovailoa? He's currently going right now. Tony Pollard and Tua are two very similar values in this community right now, which I find very interesting. You know, you can even go another quarterback like a Daniel Jones, who got a 4-year or 3-year contract extension, however way you feel about Daniel Jones. Once again, these are all starting points, not finish lines. Wanting to bring my thought process on each and every one of these players I'm going to be talking about today. You may agree, you may disagree. Just wanting to sell these players at the right time, or even right now, depending on where the value is at according to the community. So if you can, at the right time, try and sell Tony Pollard. My second player I'm going to be selling high at the right time, that is Calvin Ridley. Once again, I love Calvin Ridley, have a lot of stock of him, and a guy that I really believe could potentially take a next step coming into this year. But it's all about the overarching situation. I think a lot of people are getting a little bit, you know, having you know, drunk glasses on when it comes to Calvin Ridley because of what we've seen in the past, right? He's always been at this point a top 15, even top 5 wide receiver. I mean, remember the 2020 season, been a top 5 wide receiver over there with the Atlanta Falcons at the time. But once again, when I'm really looking at the overarching situation, I need to understand and be like, okay, where am I going to be, whether it's this year or in a couple years from now, depending on my team builds. And obviously this is more catered to futuristic teams, but even if you're in a win now team, maybe you can pivot to somebody that you may feel a little bit more comfortable with. Once again, hear me out. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver 34 on the community right now. He is 28 years old, and he is a guy who hasn't played football for a whole year. He's a guy that's going into a brand new offense that he hasn't played with before, with a brand new quarterback he hasn't played with before, and we are all expecting him to be this top 15 wide receiver. Can he be that? Absolutely, because we've seen the history of that, and we also seen the history with Trevor Lawrence. But I think a lot of people are completely disregarding Christian Kirk, and I don't think that is the case. But that's not really the point I'm trying to make. My point is, once again, the overarching situation of Calvin Ridley. Once again, 28 years old and hasn't played, you know, a snap of football in over a year, and we expect him to come back just like that. We expect him to be this guy where he was. And once again, I do and really hope and believe he can be that. But is Calvin really somebody I want to be investing in the next 2 to 3 years? And that's the same question I'm pretty sure the Jacksonville Jaguars are probably asking themselves, right? What is the type of money that we're supposed to be giving Calvin Ridley, and how long is that contract going to be, right? If you get a 2-year contract extension or 3-year contract extension from Calvin Ridley, that is great because that's more ammunition to sell him. But I think at the moment right now, I think it's not his peak value, because I do believe he can get higher. But I think this is a good opportunity to potentially sell Calvin Ridley depending on your leagues. Currently right now, he's going, according to the community, once again, a starting point, not the finish line. He is the pick in your rookie drafts right now. He can be from picks 110 to later. And I know we haven't been massive advocates for the late round draft picks, but at the 110, if I can get someone like a Dalton Kincaid for Calvin Ridley right now, who I really believe is going to be the answer for Josh Allen in the years to come, I'm really excited about that, whether I'm futuristic or win now. Someone like a Jared Goff apparently is really close in value for Calvin Ridley. You may have to sweeten the pot, but I'm really interested in getting Jared Goff, who I believe a 28-year-old quarterback can easily play for another 5 to 6 years, and especially getting a contract extension with the weapons that they're putting around him. So if I can do that, I absolutely would. Let me remind you, at one point in the offseason, Calvin Ridley was going for like the 201 all the way to like the 205, 206 at some points. And you can throw in, you know, hey, here's an early second, here's a random third, here's a random fourth. And that's what you were getting for Calvin Ridley. Now you're telling me I can get a Dalton Kincaid, I can get a Jared Goff, I can get a late first in maybe even in 2024. I will be extremely happy to be selling Calvin Ridley for that price. Once again, not an anti-Calvin Ridley take. I want to know how I can pivot and get my value at the right time. Now, if he's top 15 wide receiver, in the first 10 weeks, maybe first, 15 weeks, and his value is even higher, then absolutely I would do that and sell him high, because he still hasn't gotten a contract extension, number one. And number two, he's going to be 29 years old. Like I've been saying this whole take, he's going to be 29 years old. And we're kind of talking about some of these wide receivers right now that have been at that peak, the DeAndre Hopkins, the Keenan Allens, the Devontae Adams, who are in that 28 to like 33-year-old range, saying, well, it's just one more year. Just one more year. We love them, but like, how many more years do they have, right? There's so many Cooper Kupps, right? Now we're getting the Stephon Diggs are kind of getting into that area now. The Tyreek Hills. I'm not saying they don't have value. I'm not saying they're not going to be value. I'm saying we're always ready to pivot at some point, and I think this could be the year. And at some point in the offseason, or maybe in the beginning of the season, Calvin Ridley could be a good sell high. Once again, not an anti-Calvin Ridley take, just wanting to give my thought process and say, hey, don't sleep on Calvin Ridley if he's getting crazy amount of targets and being a top wide receiver, to sell high on him at the right price. The last player I have on my list here that I'm going to be selling high at the right time, once again, not an anti-take, please hear me out, because I really like this player, and that is Anthony Richardson. Okay, Anthony Richardson, currently QB9 in the community. And I'm really trying to form this in the right way as possible as I can. And you guys know me, I'm maybe not the best with my words, but hear me out when I really say about this. I love Anthony Richardson, but I'm happy to pivot from him if I have an absolute guarantee in that quarterback position. Once again, QB9 on the community right now, drafted with top 5 draft capital, going to one of a good, offensive mind head coaches currently right now with Shane Steichen, and we believe in the development. We see Anthony Richardson and what he can do with his legs. He can be the potential to have the Lamar Jackson, to be the Cam Newtons, to be the Justin Fields on the ground, without a doubt. But the biggest question, and I think what everyone once again still has like their drunk goggles on when it comes down to Anthony Richardson, is his passing ability. Now, can he be that person that can change it around like a Josh Allen? Absolutely, without a doubt. But what happens if that doesn't happen? Is there a risk aversion scenario that I can take right now to get a guaranteed, maybe even throw in to sweeten the pot and get deals done to pivot away from Anthony Richardson? Once again, not an anti-Anthony Richardson take, but I'm really interested to see what that price is, who I can really get, because right now, Anthony Richardson is the talk of the town. People were doing so much to get Trey Lance at some point because he was going to the San Francisco 49ers, who had an amazing arm and who can produce on the ground. And that can be the same thing with Anthony Richardson. I really don't hope that is the same pathway that Anthony Richardson takes. I guess the way the Trey Lance take got injured or whatever the case may be. But I really believe that if I can do a risk aversion, I'm happy to take that without a doubt. Some players right now that you can go out and trade for, according to the community. Once again, this is a starting point, not a finish line. And there are obviously some wide receivers you can go out and trade Anthony Richardson away for. And these are some top wide receivers that are really close to his ADP and pricing right now. Excuse me, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra. Now, would I do these trades? I'll be very interested in them without a doubt. But once again, if I'm in a super flex league, I'm wanting to pivot to a quarterback. Okay, once again, Anthony Richardson, QB9. Can I send Anthony Richardson in a second and get someone I feel more comfortable in, like a Justin Herbert? Once again, a starting point, not a finish line. Can I send a second, whatever it may be, to get a Lamar Jackson? Right? Can I go out and get a Trevor Lawrence? These guys who we've seen in a proven factor of all these guys. Trevor Lawrence, QB8 last year. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, we've seen the history with that, right? Justin Herbert, he didn't have the best year last year, but he has been a top 10, top 8 quarterback in the past, right? Those are the type of moves I'm willing to make to have a risk aversion for Anthony Richardson not to fail on my team. You're spending the 102, the 103 in your dynasty in your rookie drafts right now to acquire Anthony Richardson. And he's not even a for sure thing. And that is the same thing people were doing last year or a couple years ago with Trey Lance. And everyone is wishing maybe they didn't make that trade. And obviously that is a different circumstances. Those are very different scenarios that has happened for Trey Lance. But in the NFL, somehow things repeat, right? Somehow guys are bust for some reason or some way, or somehow some guys don't develop the way we all expected them to. Once again, QB9 right now, I'm listening. If I got Anthony Richardson, I'm putting him on the block. Hey, what you got? It's kind of like selling Bijan. It's kind of like selling the 101 and saying, you know, if I can get a hole right now for the 101 for Bijan Robinson, I'm doing it. And that's the same thing I want to get you guys ready for Anthony Richardson. I think a lot of people, it's hard for them to do that, especially in the Superflex League, if, you know, for somebody that has such a great rushing upside. But if somebody is willing to really bet on that rushing upside and give you one of these top 6 quarterbacks, you know, in top 6, you think about, I doubt you're going to get these players, but I'm just saying, right? If you can sweeten the pot somehow, if you can throw in 2 seconds for Anthony Richardson in 2 seconds, you know, Anthony Richardson a second and a wide receiver. I am doing this in a heartbeat for like a Trevor Lawrence, a Lamar Jackson, a Jalen Hurts, a Joe Burrow, right? I'm doing all those things to get those guys on my team if I have an Anthony Richardson for security reasons. Once again, not an anti-take, not an anti-Anthony Richardson take. Truly believe he can be this person, but I am listening. I am wanting to inquire and see, you know what, let's check out the value in the market right now. So once again, guys, Anthony Richardson, Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, all guys I really like, but really wanting to test the market and see when is going to be the right time for me to sell. And obviously we're probably going to bring out multiple videos, but I want to bring this to you guys now, because I think everyone is sitting pretty right now. They're looking at their fantasy teams and saying, okay, my team's going to pop off. I got Calvin, I got Tony, I got Richardson, I got all these guys that are going to get workloads and get targets. You know, they're going to be rushing for a lot of yards. I agree. But we also have to be in the mindset, okay, we got to turn, right? We're gonna continue to keep the ball rolling and seeing how I can get value in different places. So comment down below, please. I know a lot of people are gonna have a lot of opinions, and maybe I was rambling this whole video, but I appreciate each and every one of you. Once again, like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's all love.
Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.